Hello once again. I know we are following up on a very power-packed session, but I assure you this next session is going to be power-packed as well because it's on a topic which we just can't afford to ignore. This is on artificial intelligence and what lies ahead in that field. And we have some of the best voices on stage here to talk about that. So just a short introduction for those of you who are present over here. And artificial intelligence is leading the charge in innovation and transformative changes across various sectors in India. We are witnessing a remarkable surge in artificial intelligence development with both homegrown startups and established companies leveraging this technology to tackle unique challenges, boost productivity, and streamline processes. From revolutionizing agriculture through precision farming to enhancing healthcare with predictive analytics, the scope of AI is vast and profoundly impactful. Indian talent is, of course, at the heart of innovations being rolled out by big tech companies. They are the innovators and tailors behind the solutions that big tech is stitching together for the world. In this session, we will be focusing on the incredible strides which have been made in the field of AI and also talk about the potential as well as the challenges that lie ahead. Let me introduce my guests on stage right now. I'm joined by Nikki Parmar, who's the co-founder of Essential AI. Dr. Rohini Srivatsa, Chief Technology Officer for Microsoft India and South Asia, and Saurabh Kumar Sahu, Managing Director and Lead of the India business at Accenture. Thank you all for making time today. But I want to begin with opening remarks from all of you about the pace of artificial intelligence development, not just in India, but across the world, and also your views on AI being developed for India by Indians. Nikki, starting with you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. So I've been working in AI since around 2015. So it's been around 9 to 10 years. And my journey started where pretty much like AI, and especially like generative AI, which is popular with ChatGPT and Cloud AI, was pretty much in an experimental phase and an R&D phase. So, we've come a long way. I had spent 6.5 years at Google Brain, and then, started my company. And it's been remarkable to see, how we've been able to push the frontier of this technology, where now, it's generally like if you think about the pace of innovation, if you think about how technology develops, today we have these models, today we have AI, where a single model, a single general model understands, a lot of things about the world. It can help you with your writing, with your coding. It can solve so many different tasks for you. Very rarely we've seen, general phenomena that, scale so well with better models, with more data. And so I feel like we're still at the cusp of even understanding all the things that these models can do. And where it is heading is that, we're seeing that not only, we can just use this one single model for many, many different applications and tasks, but now in the future, they will also, be learning from users itself. They'll have their own kind of self-learning loops where we just have to show maybe like a few examples of doing a new task, or maybe soon in the future, they'll also help us with innovations and discoveries and lead us to new scientific discoveries, which is very, very exciting.
You were telling me that you're a big fan of science fiction movies. Before I take that question to the others, is there anything that is lying up ahead that you've also seen and you feel that that's something which we've seen in the movies already and now it's coming to a reality for people to actually access that kind of technology?
Yeah, that's obviously like in the movies, it's a lot more extreme. And, we were hearing about, the previous session of, how they are sometimes a reflection of what is happening, but also it helps to kind of paint the picture forward. I feel like there's a whole bunch happening in just being able to make our lives very productive and, just have these little like your own Jarvis or like your little digital assistant that will learn from you, your personality will adapt to you, and, just like in the background help out with everything that that you want and you need. And obviously, there's a lot more of the extreme stuff, right? Obviously, self-driving is pretty much a reality where I'm from in San Francisco. There's also, humanoid robots that are, in active development. So soon we might see them, in our homes as a companion. helping us out in our everyday tasks, not just physically, digitally as well. So yeah, a lot of this stuff that we might see in like a Black Mirror episode is definitely coming to life.
Might be a part of our reality soon. Dr. Srivats, if you can also weigh in on this. AI for India by Indians. What's your view on that? Are we making progress at a pace where we would like to be?
Yeah, first I would like to say I think AI is definitely, as Nikki pointed out, at a very, very huge paradigm shift in the way in which technology is moving. And I think for India, this is once in a generation time opportunity for really inclusive and sustainable growth. I'll give you a few examples. So we all know that ChatGPT moment happened in November of 2022. Just a few weeks later, our CEO was in India, and we showed him a demo of a farmer being able to ask about the PM Kisan Yojana, what he was eligible for, in his language using voice. Now, something like that would have been impossible just a few weeks ago. But what I want to point out is the agility and speed at which that innovation could happen, and the kind of access and the kind of inclusion it can enable. That's just an example. So short point here is that for India, this is, whether it's Indian startups, it's the India AI mission, the government, all of our IT companies, it's once in a generation time to really adopt AI, because there are capabilities such as language, such as ability to engage with technology, engage with information in a very natural interface that was not possible earlier. And the examples can go on and on. We just had a couple of days back a co-pilot for a teacher. It's called a Shiksha co-pilot that we had been working on with an NGO in Karnataka, and now is going to a larger audience. That allows a teacher in a government school to create a lesson plan for their students. In government schools, typically you have children from different ages in the same classroom, and they may have different skill levels. So teachers are very pressured to be able to create a lesson plans that's both relevant, interesting, adaptive. And they both content as well as time limit. This allows a teacher in Kannada to prepare a lesson plan for their students that is tailored to that particular student's interests. That was impossible earlier. So you can go sector after sector. The kind of things that are possible today with AI and the kind of accessibility that can be enabled for inclusive growth is a potential for India that's absolutely remarkable and unprecedented.
Mr. Sahu, your opening thoughts on this.
Great. I think on the first question on the pace of AI. So we are following an act after Kareena Kapoor Khan, and you asked a question on movies. So Sholay is my favorite movie. It doesn't need much of AI to watch it. But James Cameron, when he conceptualized Avatar, he had to wait 10 years for the technology and the AI to be ready to actually make the movie. Now we are in a world where it is the reverse. I think AI is growing faster than what it can be put to use at. Right? So there is a lot of technology, and the pace of technology is immense. We have to figure out ways in terms of how it can be used much more beneficially for us, and as ma'am also pointed out, in terms of social inclusion. So I think that's one clear point. I don't think we need to be worried about the pace of AI movement or technology. I think it's about finding all the right use cases and using it for, in general, overall benefit of humanity. The second point about AI for Indians, for India and by Indians. So I think I have been a big, and thank you for the question, because I have been a very, very big advocate of this thought that we are, all, as India, with the computer revolution that happened and later on digital revolution that happened, we have always been the cradle of talent, right? So India has always been seen as make in India, make from India, or AI by India, AI from India. I think the time has now come to be for AI for India, which is how do you improve the consumption of AI within our country? Right? And I said this in some other forums as well. AI for me, frankly, means Atmanirbhar India. Right? So how do you, and I think a big component of for us to be Atmanirbhar India has to be AI led. It has to be used for convenience, for more creativity, for making life simpler and easier. Right? And take simple examples. Where do you all see AI today for? How many of you use Swiggy or Zomato? almost everybody uses Swiggy and Zomato, right? The customer service today, if you have to complain about something on your order, is completely AI enabled, isn't it? You hardly get to talk to or need to talk to a human agent anymore there, right? So it's essentially about how simplified the entire process has become and convenient for people to use it. Look at banking, right? So even from enterprise users of making banking less fraud prevalent, as well as the users today, huge amount of AI is being there. But I think the moot point is, how do you make AI responsible? How do we use it for larger social inclusion? Because today also there are still a set of certain sections of the society who need to be trained and educated better of using of AI, and that's how essentially we will progress.
Right. AI is also known for predictive analytics. So I want to actually ask a question in connection to that. What do you predict as the next big sector where we will see a lot of disruption led by artificial intelligence?
Yeah, so maybe I can start with, where we're seeing like the biggest impact today and where I think it's going to go in the next few years. So today, I would say that, coding is one of the sectors, where we're seeing a lot of application of AI. But I think there's a more fundamental, there's a more fundamental view to this where, there's things where, it's easy for the model to learn. They're boring, they're repetitive. So something that, we might call like grunt work, et cetera, et cetera. That is definitely, being impacted by AI today. There's a lot of like, writing and, coding applications that are being affected by AI. But where it's going to go next is in being able to like learn from the users itself. So we have so many different experts, right? Like everyone from like a teacher to someone in the banking domain to someone who's building software. We will have a phenomena where the models start learning from the experts themselves, knowing the nuances, knowing the gotchas, knowing, getting those kind of expert skills that will help it, make decisions and get insights as an expert would. Similarly, if you think about, scientists themselves, like, in biology, in education and teaching, imagine where the models themselves become the experts. Now, not only can they do the work, that the humans are themselves doing and do them probably more efficiently, now they can also now start upskilling, a larger force. They can impart those skills to people who don't have them, and through the interaction of language. Maybe you don't even have to spend that many years learning a new skill. The barrier will be lower in being able to, for us to also, get more deeper understanding, get deeper insight into being able to push the frontier. So I feel like that's going to be very interesting to see how it ends up taking shape, where I believe that in the future, everyone, will be like a domain expert in something, and it'll become easier to become that using AI. And a lot of it is going to happen through the user interaction with the models. Okay. It's going to happen through AI figuring out how to improve themselves, right? Mm-hmm. Today they can't be like, learning themselves. Mm-hmm. So that is still like an open research question, but a lot of that, I think, will start taking shape.
We'll start seeing that soon. Dr. Srivatsa, if I can ask you this, which are the sectors do you think that we are going to see AI-led disruption in the near future or immediate future?
I think, look, every single sector will have AI that will change the way in which you service customers, the way in which you work, the way in which you run processes, and the way in which new products, etc., are designed. But I think there are some sectors where the ability for AI to do things that were impossible earlier are of personal interest to me, right? Because we all get excited about certain sectors. I think healthcare, education are two where you will see AI being able to do things that were not possible earlier. So I'll give you an example in healthcare to the point Nikki was making. It's impossible for a doctor and any medical professional today to keep up with the latest that's happening in a particular disease front or any particular specialization across the world. Now imagine that doctor having an AI assistant that is able to look through what kind of disease symptoms, what kind of very unique cases are happening. Imagine a very specialized case in child cardiology or something, right? That AI's ability to tell what was latest happened in the world in that space, what was tried, what worked, what didn't work, really be that AI assistant to the doctor is something that could not have been done earlier, and that is possible today. So I think to me, today meaning that will be increasingly become possible, right? Similarly, if you look into areas around elderly care, a lot of things that's happening in the area of ambient intelligence, in being able to look at sensors and being able to have intelligence in the room or intelligence in the in their environment and help them live better lives. That is another area for elderly care. Then to the point also Nikki raised, that the way in which AI is changing how research is done, whether it's in the form of looking at molecules and synthesizing molecules with a particular kind of characteristic, being able to simulate them faster through emulation, that whole area of AI for R&D is another. So I gave you 3 examples why I think healthcare is probably one area where AI will do things that were earlier impossible. Now they may just be difficult. The other one is education. Imagine having every child, whether the child has got learning disabilities, or whether the child has got language, different languages that in fact, I think AI will make India really celebrate our diversity in languages. Because no longer should everybody learn English to have access to both opportunities and information. So I think those are 2 sectors. I just feel that we will see things happen that were impossible earlier, and with the broadest sense of economic impact and potential and unlock of human potential.
Right. Saurabh, although I want to hear your views on this subject as well, but let me ask you the most germane question that we want to address in this session. That while we have seen a lot of Indians or people of Indian origin who are heading or at the center of AI development in all the big tech companies as well, but we haven't seen the kind of innovation, like let's say a ChatGPT was not launched in India. What do you think do we need to do to reach that level, or why hasn't it happened yet in the country?
Interesting one, actually. I think AI for India will solve a lot of it. But let's look at, I'm hoping, Nikki, you will do something, which will answer this question very soon. But so let's look at it as to what enables people to become inventors or creators, right? And ultimately, it has to be ingrained in the entire education system of the country. So at the end of the day, like the way we inculcated computers and computer science into our education institutions as a part of our overall, education policy, as it became mainstream for people to choose and excel in that particular subject, I think the time has to therefore come to have AI, analytics, digital, and various such technologies, emerging technologies, as a part of mainstream education system of our country. I think that's one fundamental aspect which will be required. The second thing is the freedom of expression of experimentation, right? So I think allowing people that it is okay to fail. When you do certain things here, a lot of the growth that happens outside of India is also cushioned against certain budgets or investments which have been made well forward. That is, you say, okay, go for this, even if it fails, it's okay, we'll try again, and so on and so forth. That's what typically inventors are created. So I think that kind of, I would say, support system, and for this, private institutions, educational institutions, the government of the country, corporate institutions, all have to come together to create an ecosystem, and hopefully it should happen soon, wherein you eliminate the fear of failure of people and allow them to experiment. Already the AI platforms are created, people can experiment a lot, whether it is ChatGPT or various other technologies are coming in, and hopefully that will create something really strong for us. Lastly, I think the startup ecosystem of the country, right? And we've seen a huge surge in terms of the way startups are created and many of them achieving unicorn status, etc. I think one of the markers of success of the startup should also be in terms of the kind of disruptive or innovative use case that they can create, more than the unicorn valuations or on the aspects of it. Because, as I keep repeating this fact, 60% of the jobs that we have today were not thought of or estimated in 1960. So in just about 40 odd years, right, we have created more than 60% of the jobs which did not exist then. So if you allow people to start experimenting, creating many things, right? Over a period of time, you will see some of those will achieve scale. And then we will probably have many more of the new inventions coming in for India.
We'll come back on the point of education that you raised. I want to ask you more on that. But Dr. Srivatsa, your thoughts also as to why haven't we got our ChatGPT moment in India yet?
Yeah, I think we should really think deeply about India's need and where AI can make a real economic and social impact for India. So to answer your question particularly, there is work happening in India which is creating Indic foundation models. Some of that work is also happening. But I think the more important part, which I'm very, very bullish about the India startup ecosystem, is being able to take the platforms and solve real problems. And solve them at scale, solve them in a way that is meaningful. See, India has this entire infrastructure that we have created for the last 15 years, which is unique for the world, which is the digital public infrastructure, what we all use every day, the Aadhaar and UPI, etc., and the data infrastructure. That is creating the rails and roads for the digital rails and roads and creating the data in the country to unlock use cases that you will not find anywhere in the world. Whether it is in the area of financial inclusion, whether it is in the area of health, whether it is climate, clean tech, all of these areas, the ability for Indian entrepreneurs to leverage those public infrastructure to build on top of them, and you name any sector, mobility, commerce, that is what will create the value for India. And in fact, something that Nandan Nilekani talks about is DPI to the power of AI, right? AI will really exponentially impact what DPIs have been for the country.
Nikki, I want your thoughts also on this, but in a very different manner. You know, we probably want talent like you back in the country or working in India as well. Are we going to see that soon?
Yeah, I think one point I wanted to make, to what Ma'am and Sir said, is that I think there are two approaches of building. One can be problem first, the other can be technology first. And a lot of what Ma'am spoke was about like the problem first way of building. But I do think what we've seen with AI is more a technology first initiative where people have been pushing on the R&D, without like a real application for decades. The Nobel Prize in the Nobel Prize in Physics, Professor Geoffrey Hinton, who used to be at Google as well, he was pushing on some of these techniques and methods in the 80s and 90s. So it's taken us that long to see the light of the day and actually have this kind of large-scale impact with that technology. So I do think there's a lot of merit and a lot of probably also need in having a long-term view. And actually also doing the investments where sometimes you're not clear what is the exact problem that you're solving, or you don't know when it'll reach the user, but you have to keep pushing on the R&D, on the research and development. And I think that requires a certain kind of setup, which does happen in academia, but sometimes you need to get the right resources, the infrastructure, the compute, and the people almost in a room together. And we've seen that happen again and again. It happened in Bell Labs before. It's happened at Google. It's happened in a bunch of places. So I do feel there's a lot of credit to also having a technology first initiative, which I do think will also be important in the future. I think we're not anywhere close to how much more these models can advance. There's many more open research questions. And even though we'll see some applications, I do think that form factor will change a lot. I think it's what we're trying to fit to what the model's capabilities are today. But if the capabilities itself are orders of magnitude more, the applications will look different. The interaction mechanism will look different. So, and I think now getting to your question, I'm also very personally interested to find a way back to India and figure out if there is a way to make something more foundational happen. But I do think it requires this kind of research and innovation lab where you have the compute, where compute is a big piece of it, right? You have the people. And then obviously you then play to the strengths, right? Maybe you have some strengths on the data aspects. You have some strengths in what people's talents already are. what they're already good at, and also the problem space itself can motivate a lot of the research. So 100%, we should play to our strengths, but also develop, this kind of almost like a foundational and a research-driven lab that can figure out the capabilities of tomorrow, the ChatGPT of tomorrow.
Right. Okay. So unfortunately, I'm being told that we have to, these are the last few comments that we can take, but a very important question that I want to ask from all of you from different perspective, of course, but this question about ethics and, with any emerging technology, these questions will arise. So starting with you, actually, before I go across to Rohini and Saurabh, anything, because you're so deeply involved in the development of AI, anything that keeps you up at night when it comes to ethics, ethical use of artificial intelligence, and where do you stand in terms on the debate of regulation in any emerging technology?
Yeah, I would say that with any powerful technology, and especially the one that we have today, it is not clear, all the things that it can do, and especially once it becomes in a place where the AI can start improving itself. Definitely, I think we ourselves cannot imagine all the ways in which people will utilize it. So I do think that there are a lot of good scopes of having a dialogue, understanding what regulation should mean here, what does use of AI mean. And I would also say from a research perspective, there's very active areas of research and thinking about how do we align models to act in humans' best interests. And obviously, that's kind of easy to state, but very hard to execute and implement. So you do need, experts from maybe, different areas, from people who can help with, the policy setting, the regulation setting, and obviously the researchers and the people who are using these models itself to figure out, what is usage of this, look like, and how do we deploy it. I think like any technology, there's going to be many, many benefits. And I do believe, at least in the next few years, 4 to 5 years, the benefits will outweigh the cons. So I think we have to wholeheartedly, adopt it. But think about, the deployment of it and, how people will use it day to day very carefully.
Right. Dr. Srivatsa and Saurabh, from both of you, how do you think companies can manage or avoid misuse of AI while developing the technology?
Look, like we've been talking about the transformative power of AI, I think the ability for us to leverage AI will only be if you're able to trust it. So the whole idea of trustworthy AI is a topic that companies like Microsoft have been investing for quite a long time. And trust comes in at least 3 pillars: security, privacy, and safety. And I think there the journey is not something, it's a long journey, and we've been at it for many, many years, since 2016. And I think that ability to have an approach that is taking principles but making sure that you have the tools, techniques, standards, and governance approaches to ensure that you can innovate with AI with confidence, knowing that the platform and the guardrails you have put in place are there to ensure that they are human aligned, to the point Nikki was making. I think that is what we are seeing organizations that are going in and saying, embracing AI for innovation and growth in a big way, ensuring that they are putting in the guardrails, the thinking, the governance, the risk management frameworks to look at AI from a trust perspective.
Final words from you on this. Do you think we need more regulation going forward?
Well, yes, for sure. I think for any technology to succeed, it has to be well regulated and therefore put to the right use. I think quickly, in the interest of time, 3-4 quick points. I think firstly is responsible AI or ethical deployment of AI is now a necessity and not a choice. Accenture, for example, has taken a lead in terms of appointing not just a chief AI officer, we have a chief responsible AI officer as well, okay, who looks at essentially how and advising firms and companies in terms of how AI should be used. 15 to 20% of the budgets that typically companies use for AI are earmarked for responsible AI usage. What are the right frameworks, guardrails, platforms that should be put together so that monitoring of the right use of AI is therefore very critical. And a few days back, I was there at the India Mobile Congress in a CEO roundtable, and we had Mr. Sindhia, kind of talk to us about various technologies on 5G and various other technologies for emerging India. And even the government of India has taken notice in terms of the responsible and ethical use of AI. And the India AI mission, other areas are working on ways and means to lay the right framework around it. So I think very clearly the awareness has been created. It's a matter of, it's very simple. If AI is developed, it's put to use, you don't use it well, any which ways you're not going to get appreciation about it. Even ChatGPT, when it was launched and people used it, when the hallucinations started coming in, you had quite a few people who lost a bit of touch in terms of saying, okay, not everything is right there. Then people start to work in terms of getting it right. So it's inevitable therefore.
Right. I have a lot more questions for all three of you actually, but unfortunately, for lack of time, we'll probably take it to the next room.
The AI will answer the questions.
Thank you so much for joining us on this very
Likewise.
insightful panel. Thanks.